Hi, this is Mrs. Hazel, and today I have a very special book to read to you. It's called Galimoto, and it's by Karen Lynn Williams. Let me read a little bit of the foreword to this book so you can understand a little bit more about this book, which takes place in Africa. Galimoto means car in Chichewa, the national language of Malawi, Africa. It is also the name for a type of push toy made by children. Old wires or sticks, cornstalks, and pieces of yam are shaped into cars, trucks, bicycles, trains, and helicopters. All of these intricate toys are known as galimoto. The word may have come from the English motor car, with the words in reverse order. In Chichewa, the sounds R and L are often interchanged, and C and G may have been. And every syllable ends with a vowel. So this is about a boy making his own toys. Because in Africa, and where I lived in Swaziland, children didn't have a lot of toys like you have here. And they made their own cars out of wire. And this story will tell you how they did it. And they also played with other things like old tires. And there's even a story that I'll read to you about a little girl who didn't have a doll, so she got a stone and she treated that like her doll. So when you think about the story, you may think about how lucky you are for all your toys and all the things that you have. Okay, let's read the story. Condi opened an old shoebox and looked inside. These were his things. They belonged to him. Inside the box there was a ball made of many old plastic bags tightly wrapped with string. There was a knife Condi had made from a piece of tin can, and a dancing man he had made from dried corn stalks. In Condi's box there were also some scraps of wire. He had been saving the wires for something special. Now he took them and the knife from his box. Do you see his box? And there's his house in the background. I shall make a galimoto, Condi told his brother Ufulu. Ufulu laughed. A boy with only 7 years cannot make such a toy. You don't have enough wire. I will get enough wire, Condi answered. Condi took his knife and wire scraps and went to the home of his friend, Gift. I want your wires, Condi told Gift. I'll give you my knife for them. Why do you want the wires? Gift asked. I want to make a galimoto, Condi answered. Gift ran his fingers over the tin knife. It is a good knife. I'll cut a dancing man with it. Gift took a handful of wires from his box of things and gave them to Condi. That's not enough wire for a galimoto, he told his friend. I will find enough wire, Condi said. Here's the next page we're going to read. Condi put his wires into an old white plastic bag and took them to the shop of his uncle. Good day, second son of my brother, his uncle greeted him. How can I help you? I want some wire, Condi told his uncle. How will you pay for it? I have no money, Condi answered, but you have wires on your old packing boxes from the city. They would make a fine galimoto. So, you want to make a galimoto? The son of my brother is a clever boy. Take the wires. And here's the next page. Chee, 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 chee. Condi could hear the grinder at the flour mill. Many women with babies tied on their backs waited in the hot sun. Others arrived carrying heavy baskets of maize on their heads. Condi squeezed through the crowd. He was very near the front door when someone grabbed him. The women began yelling angrily, "Stop that one! He goes out of turn!" Condi was being pushed and shoved. Here's the next page. Suddenly, the mill stopped its grinding. "What is it?" the miller shouted. The women pointed at Condi. "Ah, no," Condi said. "I have no maize to grind. I only want wires for a galimoto." He opened his bag for them to see. "Playthings! For this you keep us waiting," the women grumbled angrily. "One cannot eat wires." An old toothless woman shook her hand at Condi. The miller shrugged. "There are some wires out back. Take those and go." In the back of the mill, there was an open door. Inside the door was a pile of old motor parts. There, Condi found some very thin wires wrapped in red and yellow and green plastic. "I can scrape the coating off," Condi thought. "These wires will hold my galimoto together." Still, he did not have enough for a galimoto. Ooh, look at that big ant hill. Condi passed some young children playing on an ant hill. One was Munde, the small sister of his friend Gift. She had a fine long piece of wire which she stuck into the hard dirt. "Little friend," Condi called as he came near, "you cannot catch an ant that way. Go fetch them water, for with that and a stick we will fool them." When Mundi came back, Condi poured the water around one of the holes. "Now they will think the rains have begun," he explained. Then he stuck a stick down the hole. Gently he pulled it out, and on the end of the stick was a large ant. "My stick is better than a wire for catching ants. You may have the stick, and I'll take the wire." He's climbing over a fence. Condi knew there was a trash heap behind the bicycle repair shop, but the gate was locked. Condi climbed over the fence. In the courtyard, he found some broken, bent spokes from a bicycle. He climbed back over the fence with his bag. Here's the next picture. "Thief! Help! Police! Thief!" Condi heard a voice call. Children came running from the marketplace. Men came running from the shops. They made a circle around Condi. "Thief! Thief!" they chanted, pointing at Condi. A policeman arrived. He grabbed Condi by the shoulder. "What are you doing?" he asked. Condi showed the policeman his wires. "I want a galimoto," he explained. "I need these wires." "Galimoto," the crowd murmured. "Galimoto." They shook their heads and went back to their business. "Take your wires and go," the policeman told Condi. It looks like he's bending the wires to make his galimoto. Do you see the hut in the background with the grass roof? Condi took his wires back to the shade of the red flame trees in his village. Nearby, his mother and sisters pounded their maize. They sang of the hard work they were doing. Condi sorted his wires. There were thick pieces and thin pieces. Some wires were long and some were short. Condi banged the bent and twisted ones with a stone to straighten them. Then he began. The thick wires made the frame. He wrapped the very thinnest wires at the joints to hold the Galimoto together. My Galimoto will be a pickup, Condi planned. It'll carry maize to the city, and it will have an antenna for the radio. He smiled. Condi worked all afternoon. He pounded the strongest wires around a pipe to make the round wheels. A sturdy piece of bamboo made the rod for the steering wheel. Where I lived in Africa, they used tin cans, like soda cans, for the wheels. Oh, here he is again, making his Galimoto. Finally, the warm, toasty smell of maize porridge came cooking over the village fires, told Condi it was time to go home. His brothers and sisters admired his work. So, you found enough wire, Ufulu said. Yes, Condi agreed. He parked his Galimoto next to his box of things and ate his supper. Let the moon be bright for us to play and sing tonight. Condi could hear his friends singing in the distance. They were calling him to play. Do you see his Galimoto? Do you see the steering wheel really tall? Where is it? Right there, see? That's so he can walk along and he can stand up and steer his Galimoto. Now he carefully guided his Galimoto over the dusty path. Galimoto! Someone cheered, and one by one, Condi's friends formed a line behind him. Eee! Galimoto! Galimoto! They began to chant. There they are in a long line. There's the Galimoto. Condi saw the shadow of his Galimoto cast by the moonlight, racing alongside. It's a fine Galimoto, he thought proudly. Perhaps tomorrow I shall make my Galimoto into an ambulance, or an airplane, or a helicopter. See, now it's a pickup truck, but he can change it and make it into anything he wants. And there's the last picture. It's of him dreaming of all the things he can make with his wire. And that's the end of the story, Galimoto. I hope you enjoyed it. It reminds me of home because we would have a lot of fun playing with those little wire cars. And also another thing they like to play with were tires. You just take an old tire and a stick, and you could hit the tire with the stick and make it roll along, and you could run alongside the tire or run behind it and make it go. And that was a lovely toy to play with. Thank you very much for listening. Bye. And hopefully I'll be able to read you some more stories about Africa.